Melani Dizon is the Director of Education and Research at the Davis Phinney Foundation, which she joined in 2018. She's a former social worker, as well as a teacher, therapist, and coach. And she worked as a freelance educator and writer for 25 years. She joined the foundation because she was inspired by its mission, which is to help people with Parkinson's live well today. She's also a terrific human who I appreciate very much, and it's a pleasure to welcome Mel Dizon to PD Wise. Welcome, Mel.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So tell us to start with about the Davis Phinney Foundation for people who aren't familiar with your work.
Sure. We help people with Parkinson's live well today. It was founded by Davis Phinney in 2004 actually. And, he founded it because he realized that there was a lot of talk about the cure, but he needed to know, what could I do right now? And he had found that exercise was a really important thing for him to feel better. And he wanted to spread that message to as many people as possible. So we focus every day on the little changes that you can make, whether that's food, exercise, getting the right doctor, everything you can do to feel better today.
Yeah, and that's really important, isn't it? Because all of us want to find a cure as quickly as possible, and many, maybe most of us try to contribute to that effort, and yet we have the daily living, the daily grind with a progressive neurologic disease called Parkinson's that inevitably, happens. And so finding resources and communities of people to do that with, I think is really important. It certainly has been for me. Can you talk about the community aspect of Davis Phinney Foundation?
Yeah, the research backs it up, but we believe that connecting to the community is, just as important as taking medicine. And being able to connect with them, maybe it's on a bike ride, maybe it's through a fundraiser, maybe it's just through support groups or the webinars that we produce, that the people who are able to connect with others who are on a similar path feel better. And we can go back to, thousands and thousands of years of people coming together in their tribes and in their communities, and that's how they thrive. And anytime somebody was taken out of their tribe, it was kind of death, really. And so we know that connection is critical, and people, a lot of times, like when they're first diagnosed, they might be nervous to go to a support group, or they're afraid of what they're going to see. They don't want to be identified as somebody that has Parkinson's. And so they resist those things. And then when they go, they wish they'd done it a long time ago, because there's just nothing quite like somebody truly getting what you're going through. And even though everyone with Parkinson's experiences it so differently, it's just that little nod that they get, like, yeah, you get it. You get what I'm going through. And that's a real powerful thing.
Yeah. And I've had the privilege of being a part of some of your foundation's work and gatherings. And one of the things that has always impressed me is that you really offer leadership opportunities to people with Parkinson's, right? I mean, in most of the events that I'm aware of and been a part of, folks who are living with PD are providing leading voices to the community. And I think that's really important and praiseworthy. So I wanted to make note of that.
Yeah, thanks. We, I can be a book expert, but I don't have it, and our staff doesn't. So we love just making sure they give them the mic and talk about what they know.
Yeah, well, you do that well. So you serve as Director of Education and Research for the foundation. Tell us about that work in particular.
Yeah, so we're the ones that create everything that's on the blog, all the articles. We produce all of the webinars, the online events, in the past, the in-person events, the Every Victory Counts manual, which is our real signature product. It's a free resource for everybody. It's like 300 or 400 pages. So that's out in about 50,000, 55,000 people's hands, which is great. On our research side, we focus on quality of life research. Right now, we're going through a research round that is, our interest is about exercise and how it impacts non-motor symptoms, and also sleep. sleep and Parkinson's. And so we're just actually, our deadline is coming up. So we're excited to get those new proposals in. And the other thing that we did this year, which I am so excited about, is we identified our first fellow. We're working in partnership with Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and our goal is to get more people trained to be specialists in Parkinson's. And so we have just supported our first fellow. They're going to be starting this fall in Chicago, and our hope is that over the years their expertise is going to trickle down to many more people, and we'll have many more fellows throughout the time of this organization, so that more people can get the care they need.
That's great news. Keep me posted on that. I want to hear more.
Yeah.
I noted in the introduction that you started work at the foundation because you were, struck by, maybe inspired by its mission. But say more about that, and particularly how you got interested in Parkinson's and how that's evolved over time.
Yeah, so I really had zero experience with Parkinson's. I knew one person in my life who had it, and it was just a friend of mine's mother-in-law, so I wasn't very close to that person. But when I actually just randomly saw an ad. I'd been working for myself my whole career pretty much. And I saw this ad, and something about it just struck me. And then I went in for the interviews, and I just fell in love with the foundation, with what they're doing. One of the things that I am so grateful for every day is our mission is so specific. It's so clear, and it makes work just a joy because we have this great filter. Does it help people today? Well, we're not going to do that. It does it? Great. We're going to keep going. And then also I couldn't possibly, not mention Davis. I just love Davis Phinney so much. He inspires me every single day. And I just feel like the luckiest person in the world. I have a background in therapy, education, and writing, and coaching, and everything came together in this job. So it's been great.
Yeah. And I'd underscore your comments about Davis Phinney. What a remarkable person and a generous soul who does inspire lots of us on a daily basis. So what's it like to work with people who have Parkinson's, right? I mean, you got interested in learning more, and you affiliated with the foundation, became a staff member there, a leader in a leadership position. And then you started doing the sort of day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month work with people in the community. What's that been like, and what struck you about it, or what have you learned or been surprised by?
Well, I love it. I feel like I just kind of got this giant family of people that I didn't know 4 years ago, and now I talk to them on a daily basis. We have about 60 ambassadors around the country, and I know all of them, and I love getting to talk to them about their lives and what they did and what they're doing now and what they're excited about. I think the thing that surprised me most, and it sort of speaks to the challenges that they have, is that I can't believe how many people don't have the care they need. It's still shocking to me that these days people are still seeing doctors who know nothing about Parkinson's, and they are calling us all the time. They're emailing me every day. What medicine should I take? What should I do? And I think, oh my gosh, you're calling me. It makes me so sad that they don't have a doctor on call who knows Parkinson's really well and can help them out. And so I would say that's the thing that's most surprising to me. The other thing that's surprising in a good way is just how generous this community is. I really have not met anybody who, is not either purposefully giving back in a way, like maybe they're being an ambassador, or they, are watching a webinar and then we get an email later and say, can we please share this with my friend? My friend wasn't there. They're just very generous. They want to share what they know. They want to share their story. They're not prescriptive and saying, just because it happened to me, this is what's going to happen to you. They're just great people who are generous, and I just love it. I've said at the beginning, maybe like 3 years ago when I started, I was like, is everyone nice? who gets Parkinson's, or does Parkinson's make people nice? Like, I just don't understand. I've worked in a lot of different fields, and I just am overwhelmed by the relationships I have with everyone in our world.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I'm biased, of course, but when I first joined the Parkinson's community after my diagnosis going on 5 years ago, I was struck by the generosity of the community as well, and really one of the few places that had been part of my life to that point where you can sort of come as you are and be accepted and be yourself and ask any questions you want to ask and offer, whatever parts of your story you want to offer. And I do think that's, somewhat unique or at least distinctive in our community. And I think your foundation does a great job at really promoting that and celebrating it. So glad that you saw that and continue to see it as well. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about the resources that the foundation provides. So I know recently, this past weekend, you had a Victory Summit that focused on young onset Parkinson's, for example. Maybe you could say something about that, but other priorities or programming initiatives that are either underway or repeated through, periodically over the course of several years' time. What kind of resources do you all want to make available?
Yeah, so right now we are in the midst of editing and revamping our entire suite of Every Victory Counts manuals. We've had that for a really long time. Like I said, it's probably got 55,000 copies out there. Right now we're editing it. We are also creating one that's specifically for care partners. It used to be sort of mixed in with the other one, and we just found that with all this work with care partners that they just really have a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Along those lines, we are also creating discussion guides to go with that, and then we're going to help people facilitate those discussions. We might do some things online to help facilitators get a better bang when they're doing their monthly sessions, wherever they choose to do them. We also just launched a course called Charting Your Course, a Parkinson's Primer for the newly diagnosed. Really excited about that. For the first time, we put together, it's a fully online course, and it's really for people that are newly diagnosed, or I think for a lot of people, sometimes they get the diagnosis and then they say no thank you, and they put it away for a while. So maybe they've been diagnosed for a while, but this is the first time they're kind of getting into the material. And it's a real tough thing to do, right? When you first get diagnosed, I'm sure you experience it. You go online and there's 8 million things, and it's tough to filter what's right and what's wrong, and what to really pay attention to, what not. And so we tried to basically turn that into a smaller search that we just pulled out the most important things. So we're really excited about that. We do webinars on a regular basis, usually a few a month. We do like the Victory Summit that we just did this Saturday. It was for YOPD, and we used to do these events in person, and they were really great community builders. I can't tell you how many people I actually had one guy tell me that he sat in the parking lot for like an hour, and he said, I can't go in there. I just can't do it. I'm not doing it. He started to drive away, and I drove back to the parking lot, and he sat down and he said, I'm just going to go give it a try. And he went in, and he said it changed his life. He met all these friends now with Parkinson's, and he just felt like part of something. And so those events have been really great. And one of the challenges that we had sometimes is, because they were local, we had people really that may have been diagnosed the week before, and somebody who was there for 20 years. And so one of the things that we were able to do by moving them online is to really focus on certain populations. And so this weekend was all about people with young onset, so we got to tailor the content to that. We had one earlier this year that was for people that were newly diagnosed. We're doing the 2 in the fall that are coming up. We have one in September that is for care, mental health and Parkinson's, and then the one in November is for care partners. And so we're trying to really narrow in on some people's different populations, different time on their path with Parkinson's. One of the things that Dr. Savika talked about so well is just, young onset is a different disease than people who get it later. And so we want to make sure that we're really addressing each person and take them where they are. So, and then obviously all the blog content that we create and all the interviews we do is part of the education department.
Yeah, and all that is so rich, and really heartened by hearing from you that there's a renewed focus on sort of those folks who are recently diagnosed. I know that's a really, troubling time for most of us, and can be a very dark time for some of us, and an extended period, as you allude to yourself. And people are ready when they're ready, but it's nice to know that there are resources available when they are ready that can help sort of walk with them and garner additional resources as they begin their own journey with this illness. So that's great to hear. Look forward to that.
Yeah, and the great part about this course that actually was a sort of a surprise bonus to it is this piece of COVID aside, when you get diagnosed, maybe your doctor tells you, hey, try it, find a support group. We have a support group on Tuesdays and blah, blah, blah. And you are thinking like, am I ready? Am I ready for that? Am I ready to just jump into a support group and talk to people about my Parkinson's and that kind of thing? And so what we're finding with this is it's very accessible, and people are commenting, and they're in there and they're saying, oh my gosh, I was just diagnosed, or my husband was just diagnosed. And so they get that connection and that community without having to feel like completely naked going to this new support group situation. So it was a little unexpected benefit of doing it this way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, seize the opportunities, right? That's what you all do. So you're an advocate. I would call you an advocate. I assume you would call yourself an advocate for those with Parkinson's. What keeps you committed to this work?
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't know. I just go to bed every night and think, what more can I do? I think the little notes that we get from people that say, wow, I didn't know I should drink a whole glass of water with my thing. My medications are working now. Or we get them in to see a different doctor. Their doctor wasn't treating them well. And we get them in to see a new doctor, and they just can't believe it. They just can't believe how different it is. And so it's those little pieces, living and working around a disease that is so uncertain for each person. And there's no way to predict what anyone's going to be like next week, next year. To get those very tangible benefits on a day-to-day basis is everything. And that's what keeps me going. I know that we have the ability to make a difference, and people are letting us know it's working. So yeah, well said. So what gives you hope as you look ahead? We're chasing the cure. In the meantime, we're trying to live our best lives every day. What gives you hope in all of that? Well, I'll tell you, I think it's the blessing and the curse of the fact that Parkinson's is doubling. It's getting worse, and more people are getting diagnosed with it early. And the great thing about that is that it's no longer for everyone this disease that everyone's trying to hide. And there's this feeling of like, oh, you have Parkinson's, I have Parkinson's. Even 10 years ago, that was not happening.
Right.
And I think that part is great, because we need voices. We need mass amounts of people to advocate, to get out there, to pound the drum, to go to Congress, to do all of these things to get more of the resources that we need. So the hope for me is that all of these people are going to make a difference. They're going to not be afraid to come forward, and they're going to come and talk about it. So, I'm hopeful for that. I'm also hopeful that there are more and more companies creating drugs, creating therapies, doing research on things that don't have to be super dramatic, but are having a big difference for people, making a big difference for people, like all the off drugs that are off now, that are sort of the rescue drugs.
Right.
People 20 years ago couldn't do that. It was like you took your Cinemet and then you were shot, and if you didn't have anything else to help you throughout the day, it was really tough. So that part is great. I love the fact that we have DBS on the horizon that's sensing, and that's can kick in when you need it and not when you don't. And there's just so many cool innovations that are happening that, and with the numbers, I think that we're going to make some progress.
Yeah, I agree. I humorously at times will say to people, there's never been a better time to have Parkinson's, right? But it's true. There's just so much going on, on the technology front, on the pharmacology front, the medical front, largely writ, but also, as you said so well, on the awareness front and the education front and the destigmatizing efforts and all of that, which feeds into this goal of living our best lives today and helping others to do that as well. So in that spirit, if someone were tuning in to PDYs when we air this conversation and they've recently been diagnosed, which a lot of folks in our community have been recently diagnosed, what would you say to them, given your work and your experience with those who live with this illness?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is get the absolute best doctor. And if your doctor tells you that, you've got 10 years of good life left, go to somebody else. It's not true. And along those lines, the second thing is surround yourself with positive people. There are a lot of people with Parkinson's who will tell you that their life is better in a million ways. And surround yourself with those people in every single aspect of your life. It makes all the difference in the world. And the third thing is 100% you can live well. There are things you can do every single day to live well. We've seen it happen. We've got this poster child, Davis, as somebody who's been living with this disease for almost 22 years.
Yeah.
And he's living amazingly well. And it definitely can happen. You just have to take action.
Yeah, I love what you said in the initial part of your response about it. If the doctor tells you have 10 years, you need a new doctor, because I couldn't agree with you more. And, oftentimes in my experience, our experience as patients can be limited by, some narrow views of healthcare providers. And so I think part of the education is doing what you've just done, is letting people know that, in that 10 or 20 or 30 years, life may change in certain ways that become more complicated, but it can also open up in some, ways that you don't even envision. And it can be even richer in some ways than maybe you imagine. That's certainly been true for me.
One of the stories I remember with Jimmy Choi, and somebody said to him something about, I can't believe you did a marathon with Parkinson's. And he said, well, Parkinson's is the only reason I did a marathon.
That's right.
And it's like, he's done a million things since then, but it's true. I mean, you get a little urgency to start doing things, and some people need a kick in the pants, and they get out there and start doing amazing things they never thought they could do. I mean, how many people have become artists and started sharing that work and teaching others? And nobody wants it. It's not great. And no one's going to walk out of that doctor's office feeling great.
Right.
But you can have a doctor who's an advocate. You can have people in your life who are going to make you better, and you can live well.
Yeah. And just one caveat to that. In my experience, it's the people who become part of the community and who then begin to give to the community, which helps other people, but it helps us too, because we feel like we're contributing and doing something good with this illness that none of us would sign up for, but it's our lot. And so the questions become, how do we live well with it, or help others live well with it, or both? So really appreciate you, Mel, and the work that you do and the foundation. Thank you for being with us today. And I know this is going to benefit a lot of people, and I'm really grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm really grateful to know you as well. Thank you so much, Allan.